It was a strategic airbase on the outskirts of Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, that was taken over by Russian shelling and airborne troops in the early days of the invasion. Nobody has had access to that site, but just days after, the Ukraine forces have taken back control of the Antonov airport, the Hostomel airport just north of Kyiv. India Today is the first international reporting team right there to bring you a sight of devastation and the remains of the sole specimen of the world's largest aircraft. It's no more. A Ukrainian dream, a giant, has come to an end. This is an exclusive by India Today's Gaurav, Sawant and Lalit Joshi.
Over 40 days of war, and this is what remains of the Hostomel airbase. Hostomel was home to AN-225 Mriya, the largest aircraft in the world. Ukraine's aviation pride has now been reduced to a mangled mass of metal. It's clear the world's largest commercial plane, the Antonov AN-225, will never fly again.
This is from the cradle to the grave. This is Mriya AN-225, the biggest aircraft ever to fly. You can actually feel the pain when you look at this aircraft. The biggest aircraft, Soviet era engineering marvel, 6 engines, 3 on this side, 3 on that side, and this aircraft literally cut into half by a massive missile strike that took place. We are at the Hostomel airbase. There is a lot of unexploded cargo here at this point of time. But just for size, this is a strategic lift transport aircraft, the biggest of such aircraft ever to be built. And this aircraft now just lies, it's shattered. Just compare this size and those small aircraft standing there.
Nicknamed Dream, Antonov AN-225 has turned into a nightmare for the world of aviation. Its fuselage is a charred and twisted gaping hole. Its gigantic wings are slumped to the ground, and one of its engines burned and destroyed.
I'll show you both the port and the starboard side, the right and the left side of this aircraft, and we'll walk along. The surface-to-air missile defense system parked very, very close. An attempt to save this aircraft. Perhaps they tried everything that they could to save this. But this is what remains of the AN-225. The cockpit, or what was once the cockpit. This is what this aircraft now looks like. We are trying to get closer, though we've been warned against this. Shiv, we've been warned against this because there could be a lot of unexploded bombs or bomblets here even now. But just take a look. Once this aircraft had, big buses inside, big bogies were inside, and with the 6 huge engines. I mean, just Shiv, look at this engine. Unbelievable. Look at this powerful engine, now just destroyed. It's surreal, Shiv. It's unbelievable what's happened to this aircraft. A piece of history now.
The airfield is littered with destroyed Russian hardware, including trucks, tanks, armored personnel carriers, and spent munitions.
We'll just walk around and show you the base. Now look at the number of rounds, unexploded bombs and bombs that are lying here. For example, this bomb here. For example, all the ammunition that is lying here. The tanks, Shiv, we'll just show you those tanks. The armored personnel carriers and tanks that are lying here. Just walk around. Lalit, just show them the place. Lalit, those are some anti-aircraft guns that are put there that have been completely destroyed. And Shiv, this just gives you an idea of the kind of battles that have taken place to attack, defend, capture this place. That's a T-72 mangled remains of what was once a T-72 tank. That's a BMP-2 the army, the Ukrainian army is also now here. They're actually, flying drones also to know the kind of damage that has been caused to this place. You also have an S-300 system, or what remains of an S-300 system from its command post here to the missile tubes that are there, also destroyed in very precise Russian attack. This is the Antonov airfield, the main hangar. There are other aircraft inside there. That's the administrative building. Up there, as you can see, is the ATC. Lalit, that's the ATC, the air traffic controller. There, some other missile tubes and anti-aircraft guns are over on the horizon that side. But all around, just images of destruction, massive destruction caused to this place.
The Hostomel airfield, just outside the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv, was among the first strategic targets of the invasion of Ukraine. Russian Mi-8 utility helicopters launched airborne assault on the Hostomel airbase just days into the war. En route Hostomel, the scenes are not very different. The suburb of Irpin reveals the horrors of war.
What we want to show you is the destruction here on this bridge. This is a very crucial bridge that connects Kyiv to Hostomel. And look at how this bridge has been targeted. Look at how vehicles are now trying to cross this bridge. Whether it's trucks, tanks, armored personal carriers, all targeted, all destroyed in Hostomel. That you see, that's the road. This is River Irpin, as this signboard here tells you. Hostomel is one of the most critical areas as far as the Russians were concerned. They wanted to take over this airfield, and several special forces missions were launched. Several attacks took place on Hostomel. The aim was to capture Hostomel and then move forward to target Kyiv. But that mission did not succeed. And look at the destruction here of this bridge. This is how this bridge was targeted. This prevented the Russians from advancing forward towards Kyiv. Several such bridges were targeted by the Ukrainians themselves to ensure that the Russian forces do not move forward. Now, this is also the place where Mriya AN-225, that largest plane, was destroyed. India today is the only team to be getting you ground reports from Hostomel. Look at this vehicle which is attempting to go. It's very risky. Some vehicles have gone. These are relief vehicles that are now entering Hostomel. Their aim is to be able to look after those who were trapped inside. And there are reports of death and destruction even here. Look at how this vehicle is trying to negotiate. The bridge is tilted. We walked across this bridge. It's completely tilted, and that vehicle is finding it very tough to cross this place.
In some areas, not a single home is left standing.
We are currently inside Hostomel, and you can look at the level of destruction in this place. It has to be seen to be believed. Look at this mall. Look at this building. We are driving through Hostomel. As you see, every building shattered, every house completely shattered, cars on the road completely either in flames or shattered. Look at this. The level of bombing that took place in this area has to be seen to be believed. Look at this mall. It's destroyed. Look at these row houses, completely destroyed. Row houses, one after the other, shelled. All the cars outside completely destroyed in the shelling that took place. And Hostomel is one of the key areas that was targeted by the Russians. They wanted to control this, make this the staging camp, the launch pad for their operations inside Kyiv. And that is why this area was repeatedly targeted. India today is now getting you exclusive reports from inside Hostomel, and we're traveling along with officials of the Ukraine army. They're also coming here for the first time themselves as they retake territory. What you also see strewn all along the roads here are bombs, and some exploded, some unexploded ammunition, and also well, in some areas, bodies that have now been lifted. If I show camera person Lalit Mohan Joshi just shows you these houses this side. Look at the destruction on both sides of the road here in Hostomel.
Ukrainian forces have taken control of these key areas, claiming it as a significant victory over the Russians. But the scars of battle remain. With Gaurav Sawant in Hostomel, Bureau Report, India Today.
Sawant has borne witness to that aircraft in those images in that ground report that you just saw. Gaurav, Ukraine has been grieving the loss of so much human life. And at Hostomel, apart from the loss of human life, they've also been grieving of a loss of a piece of their history, a piece of their heritage, a piece of their international prowess. And you saw it firsthand today, Gaurav.
Shiv, you're absolutely right. Ukraine is grieving loss of lives. Ukraine is grieving loss of history, loss of territory and loss of heritage. Mriya actually is a part of heritage of Ukraine. Of course, it's a Soviet-era aircraft built in the 80s, flew extensively, considering you've just, described for our viewers that it could carry multiple tanks, railway bogies, including that for India's metro rail. It flew into our country and it was actually an aviation marvel. The wingspan of this aircraft, the way it could fly and the number of whether tanks or other equipment that it could carry in itself. The other part was the way it was targeted. It was as if Ukraine's heritage was being targeted, and Ukraine did everything it could to save that. Shiv, you saw in those images how there were anti-aircraft guns and systems and missiles all around Hostomel Air Base. But that also explains why Russia was very keen to capture Hostomel, use it as staging camp for launching operations not just in Kiev but across Ukraine. This is what they thought. And if you remember the early days of battle, Shiv, you and I talked about it. In early days of battle, just after the 24th of February, you had Russian helicopters fly in virtually unchecked into Hostomel. And that is where the special forces had also taken control of this airbase for some time. But the Ukrainian forces fought back each time. And today, we witnessed how those battles must have happened. There were about an entire regiment, more than 45 tanks and armored personnel carriers that had been destroyed, many with those V marks. Those were the Russian tanks and APCs, but a very large number of Ukrainian UAVs and air defense systems and anti-aircraft guns were also destroyed in this place. And Hostomel as a city, completely shattered, completely destroyed. Not one house remains intact. Right next to Hostomel is actually Bucha, which witnessed the worst of the, fighting, shelling and destruction. So this entire belt, Shiv, Irpin, Bucha and Hostomel, the head and shoulders, so to say, of Ukraine, of Kiev, completely destroyed in these past 40 days, Shiv.
Truly, truly terrifying, those images that you've brought us, Gaurav. We will continue to connect with you as you, get us closer than any other journalist has in this world, to the actual devastation on the outskirts of Kyiv. The Russians have moved away from there as part of their de-escalation. But what has been left behind, and the Russians are, of course, accusing the Ukrainians of having staged much of the devastation. Whatever it is truly painful to see. Gaurav, stay safe. Thank you very much for being with me. Let's now take you to the other end of Ukraine, the Donbas region. And here, Geeta, Mohan, our foreign affairs editor, has been traveling up and down in an area that is, on the contrary, controlled completely by the Russians. Here's her latest report from Donbas, and let me remind our viewers that this is a place where the Ukrainians believe a large-scale attack from the Russians is imminent and expected.
Donetsk is an industrial city in eastern Ukraine of the disputed Donetsk Oblast. The city and the district is the gateway for Russia in its attack on Ukraine. It's also in the eye of the ongoing war. The strategic road connecting rebel-held Donetsk to Ukraine's Mariupol is lined by little danger signs. The familiar skull and crossbones emblem. The land on other side of the eerily empty roads is almost barren and burnt in patches. At Marinka in Donetsk, the Ukrainian forces are fighting hard to regain control from the Russians. Burnt buses and artillery carriers lie scattered all around in this region. At a village not very far away from where Ukrainians have been pushed back by the Russians, army vehicles continue to burn as bombings and shelling continue. The Ukrainians are trying to regain the area from the Russians despite the presence of vehicles that moved Russian artillery and troops to the area. The clashes between the two countries in the area have left behind a trail of destruction. India Today reached the urban district of Donetsk, Lelinsky. Shell-hit neighborhoods, shocked out of its daily routine, are paying the heavy price of this war.
Multiple rocket attacks here in Donetsk, and one fell right into the heart of Donetsk city in Lelinsky. This is the crater that was created because of the rocket, and if you see around me, the houses completely destroyed. This is an area which is a residential area. So the neighborhood over here was in shock, and the house, the owner of this complex, this house, she has a child who is in shock right now. Yelena, what happened last night when the rocket fell?
It was usual and quiet night, and then the shell came. Glasses and walls fell. So I picked up my son and ran to my neighbor's house.
Impact of the attack, the rocket was so huge that this entire door had a lot of the debris. And so they could not open the door. It has been pushed in, if you can see. So they could not open the door. That's why they came out of the window. And now the child is in the care of a neighbor because he's in complete shock. Alex, they've been suffering this for a while now in terms of Donetsk, but it has intensified. How scared is this neighborhood that has suffered real damage after a long time?
It's been difficult, but we expected shelling to happen around the front line, not here, in the middle of the city. So we were not ready for this.
This is the neighbor's house, which was also impacted. The wall fell, and the neighbor has a daughter. The wall fell on the daughter. She has been injured and has been taken to the hospital. Severe injuries. Look at the impact of the rocket attack in the neighbor's house as well. Yelena's house completely destroyed, but fortunately nobody lost life there. Over here, again, no loss of life, but if you go in and see the house, the wall came apart, and the young girl was sleeping, and the wall fell on her. She's been taken to the hospital. Oksana, can she explain what really happened over here, and how is her daughter now?
Around 3 o'clock in the night, the explosion happened. The wall fell on my daughter. We somehow managed to take her out and ran to neighbor's house. Then my husband took all the essentials out of this house.
Nobody wants a war. Nobody wants conflict. How disturbed is this neighborhood with what's happening between Ukraine and Donetsk, between Ukraine and Russia?
It's not a conflict of the people. This is a conflict for money. So this is not right. It's a pointless war.
It's a political thing, she says. A lot of children in the whole of Ukraine, in Donbass, in parts that are affected, are being impacted. There is trauma that they're suffering, and her child also has suffered the same trauma as many in the entire neighborhood. This is one house that has been attacked. There are some others because we were hearing loud explosions, multiple rocket attack within the heart of Donetsk. With video journalist Satya Rautre in Donetsk, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
And let's go straight across to India Today's Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan, one of the few reporters in the eastern part of those rebel-held territories that are under Russian control. Geeta, you know, we've been hearing from the Ukrainian side between yesterday and today that they expect large-scale attacks and offensives in the eastern part of Ukraine. You've been right there. You know, you've spent time with the forces there, with the citizens there. Are you hearing the same thing?
Well, absolutely, Shiv. The fiercest fight now underway, and we're looking at a defeat in detail tactic by the Russian side. They're going into areas and taking the area street by street. Today we went to Leninskaya, which you've already shown the report of. There were multiple rocket fire from the other side, from Ukrainian side, into the heart of Donetsk city. This is a very important neighborhood within the city. But we also traveled today to an area very close to Marinka, and we ourselves will be putting that report out, Gaurav, but we ourselves saw the shelling over there, and we were caught in that entire crossfire and shelling. So very difficult assignment today for us. And then we went to Volvanaka, another city taken by the Russians. Fierce fight to take the city back, but it is absolutely in control of the Russian side, Russia and the Donetsk authorities. And now what they're doing is people are trying to clear the roads. There's destruction everywhere, like Mariupol. A lot of people have been evacuated on either side. Food being provided. So another city that has taken a huge hit because of the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. We'll be putting those reports out, but you're absolutely right that the entire surrounding area and the bordering area of Donbass now is facing the fiercest fight, especially north of Luhansk, south of Luhansk, north of Donetsk, west and south of Donetsk. So the entire region of Donbass, particularly Donetsk and the south of Luhansk, are facing fiercest fight between the two forces. Ukraine trying to push back the Russian side, but Russia not giving up on the territory taken already.
Geeta, thanks very much for getting us the latest from that eastern part of Ukraine. It's so crucial because that's where much of the attacks are being concentrated now since the de-escalation, and where the actual escalation may take place going forward as well. Stay safe, Geeta. We'll keep coming back to you. Now, one of the biggest points of attention in Ukraine, in central Ukraine, near the country's capital, has been the city of Bucha. This is on the outskirts of Kyiv, and this is a city where global attention has been drawn. Bodies piled up on the roads, total destruction on the streets, allegations of war crimes with people found with their hands tied behind their backs. The Ukrainians say this is evidence of Russian war crimes. Russia says that Ukrainian militias, including the Azov battalion, have actually staged these killings to defame Russia and make them look like monsters. So it's a war of claims. But the fact is the dead are dead. Civilians have been massacred by someone in Bucha. And in this war of claims versus counterclaims, who's going to pay the price and be held accountable for what is clearly a war crime in this city? Take a look at this report.
On the streets, inside houses, in the fields, when Russian forces retreated from Bucha, a Kyiv suburb, bodies of civilians were found strewn across the landscape. Many of them had their hands tied. Since the withdrawal, horrific images of mass grave sites have emerged. The footage from Bucha has sent shockwaves across the world. Ukraine has accused Russia of war crimes. As outrage builds over war atrocities, Moscow has termed the killings on Kyiv's outskirts a fake attack.
The other day, a fake news about an attack in Bucha was doing the rounds. But the Russian army
had left the place according to the agreement. A few days later, a fake stage video was spread through social media by Ukraine and the West.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Monday visited the town and met with the residents. He called the killings a genocide.
It's war crime that will be recognized as genocide by the world. You are here and you will see what has happened. We know about thousands of killed and tortured people with cut limbs, about raped women and killed children. I think it's more than genocide.
Reacting to the images of dead bodies in Bucha, US President Joe Biden once again called Vladimir Putin a war criminal.
You may remember I got criticized for calling Putin a war criminal. Well, the truth of the matter is so what happened in Bucha. This warrants him, he is a war criminal. But we have to gather the information. We have to continue to provide Ukraine with the weapons they need to continue the fight. And we have to gather all the detail so this can be have a war crime trial. This guy is brutal. And what's happening in Bucha is outrageous. And everyone's seen it.
Germany, which was accused of being soft on Russia due to its dependence on Moscow for gas supply, has also called the killings a war crime.
The images of the past weekend have once again highlighted a new, brutal dimension of this war, with the most serious war crimes and crime against humanity. And that is why I made it clear over the weekend that we must not only close the remaining loopholes in the sanctions system, but that we must also intensively and rigorously implement this package.
As per international law, civilians cannot be deliberately attacked in a war. Pictures coming from Bucha are appalling and clearly show the violation of the code. But indicting Putin for alleged war crimes is easier said than done. This leads to another question. Are economic sanctions the counter to Putin's alleged atrocities in Ukraine? With Gaurav Sawant in Kyiv, Bureau Report, India Today.